Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic, Appalachia, home in my heart, always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Down Home Virginia. I'm Sherry McKinney.
And I'm Norm Hyde. Coming up this month on Down Home Virginia, Virginia's horse industry continues to grow.
Political redistricting could mean changes in the countryside.
And farm exports from Virginia remained strong last year.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Down Home Virginia. We are here at Green Bay Morgan's, which is a horse farm in Hanover County. It's a wonderful breeding, riding, and boarding facility in Virginia.
Yeah, and horses are very important in Virginia, but I have to wonder, Sherry, are they as important as they used to be centuries ago?
Well, this guy will tell you they are. Of course, not as many folks are riding horses for transportation like they did years ago, but a new study here in Virginia shows that literally millions of dollars are pumped into the state's economy thanks to the equine industry.
The Virginia horse industry is growing rapidly, according to a new study released by the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The Virginia Horse Industry Board study shows that the equine industry has an annual economic impact of $1.2 billion. And Gail with River Birch Farm Equestrian Center in Southampton County has seen the growth of the industry firsthand. Her family began their boarding and riding school in 2007. She believes social networks and technology have helped boost the interest in the industry.
And a lot of our customers are all on Facebook and report what they're doing with their horses or whatever today. So I think more people are aware of it, and as long as they know there's someplace they can go to give it a try, they're willing to give it a try.
While families like the Gales may be new to the horse business, the Commonwealth has a rich history and long legacy of great horses, famous horsemen and horsewomen, and ideal conditions for raising and breeding horses. Beryl Herzog and her husband Robert have been breeding and boarding horses in Hanover County for 42 years and know how important horses are to the Commonwealth.
Because everyone that owns one horse spends a great deal of money, and it goes right back into the coffers of the state.
It turns out horses have the greatest economic impact in Northern Virginia. There are more than 1,600 horse-related jobs in Fauquier and Loudoun counties. The largest employment impact is in Rockbridge County, which is home to the Virginia Horse Center. More than 1,330 jobs are industry-related in Lexington and Buena Vista.
It's not just going and riding in a horse show, for instance. It's the outfits, they buy food, they stay in hotels, they buy gas, which is terrific expense, which might be a hurting thing pretty soon. But so people are aware of this.
Virginia has an estimated 215,000 horses, ponies, and mules. The Commonwealth is ranked 12th in the nation for the number of horses. The 2007 Census of Agriculture found that while the number of farms in Virginia decreased between 1997 and 2007, the number of farms with horses increased in the state from 10,972 to 13,520. Herzog predicts this number will grow.
I think the economy will be better. This industry will continue to grow because people want to board horses, and there are more boarding facilities now. It's easier to board a horse than keep it at home. So I have seen it grow and grow and grow. It certainly is a lot larger than it was in 1968.
In addition to more than 2,500 horses, Hanover County continues to be a strong agricultural center. That's in spite of, or perhaps because of, its proximity to Richmond, the capital of Virginia. There are 625 farms in Hanover County with 46,834 acres of cropland, along with more than 10,000 head of cattle. Soybeans are the top field crop, followed by hay, corn, and wheat. Hanover is also famous for its fresh vegetables, including the legendary Hanover tomato. The National Agricultural Statistics Service reports Hanover County farms generate almost $44 million in cash receipts.
The Virginia General Assembly has been struggling this spring to come up with a compromise redistricting plan for federal and state electoral districts. One thing is certain, no matter what plan is finally approved, rural Virginia will have less direct political power.
That's because population increases in Northern Virginia, Richmond, and Hampton Roads are forcing politicians to realign almost every voting district in the state to assure equal representation. In 2010, Virginia's population totaled 7.9 million, up from 7.1 million a decade earlier.
With the shift in legislatives to the more urban areas from the rural areas, we could very well see funding for the programs that are very much a concern to the rural areas be limited. Items such as environmental issues, the extension programs, funding for schools, all of those kind of issues, and funding for transportation will shift to more urban areas, and the rural areas of Virginia be left out.
Other political challenges facing rural Virginia include access to adequate and affordable health care, controlling sprawl and protecting farmland from unnecessary development, and environmental regulations. A significant loss of political power at either the state or federal level means farmers will have to work even harder to have their needs heard and understood in Richmond and Washington.
Virginia was ranked 9th in the nation for agricultural exports in 2010, and Virginia officials are eager to see that standing increase.
Speaking at the 3rd annual Virginia Agricultural Trade Workshop, Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry Todd Haymore says he's already itching to hit the road to promote Virginia farm products overseas.
Well, we'll be going on a number of trade missions. You see already the mission that I mentioned in May to Asia, China, Korea, and Japan. We're going to India and Israel in November, sometime after I get back from Cuba, and before Thanksgiving is what the governor is telling us.
According to trade figures released in March, Virginia farm and forest exports totaled $2.24 billion last year, despite a worldwide recession and a drought that reduced yields for some of the state's top field crops. Still, exports of some Virginia farm commodities increased, including pork, poultry, wood products, and soybeans. Haymore says the 2011 Virginia General Assembly set aside almost $500,000 to help boost farm exports, the first new funding for overseas ag trade efforts in several years.
Up next on Down Home Virginia, Chef Maxwell has a tasty recipe for unique potato salad just in time for summer picnics.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on Down Home Virginia, I'm going to show you all the different hydrangeas you can grow in your garden. Stay with us.
Virginia's nursery industry is one of the fastest growing segments in the state's farm economy, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The USDA predicts that the production value of U.S. horticultural crops will increase by more than 3% annually over the next decade, and consumption of horticultural products will continue to rise. Statistics show that the nursery and landscape industries nationwide had sales valued at $6.6 billion in 2007. In the same year, Virginia's nursery industry generated $96.6 million in total sales on 392 nursery operations statewide.
I grew this apple on my family farm.
I harvested this apple with my own two hands. I transported this apple to market.
I purchased this apple for my store.
I bought this apple for my family. And I protected this apple, the farm it grew on, and everyone who touched it by joining Save Our Food.
Help Virginia Farm Bureau protect farms and families by joining Save Our Food. Sign up today at saveourfood.org.
I love this apple.
Hi, welcome back to Chef Maxwell's Kitchen. We're here in the greenhouses of the Hampton Roads Agricultural Research and Extension Center. Well, that's a tongue twister, I get it out, but it's really doing important work. They're looking into the agricultural practices all over the state. What a dish we've got for you. It's really simple. It's a potato salad, a warm potato salad kind of on the German style. All right, and I've got my Griswold here. Get that hot. Cast iron is wonderful. Right, gets hot, stays hot. And we're going to combine potatoes with apples. So I'm going to take an apple here, and I'm going to just dice it up. Now the recipe that I'm using here calls for me to peel the potatoes and peel the apples. All right? I like peels, so I'm not going to, but you might want to. All right? It depends on who you are and how you like to eat. All right? I happen to like the peels. I think it adds a little color if you don't overcook them. So I got some nice diced apple here. Right, this is now hot enough. So I'm going to add a little bit of bacon fat. Now, put bacon in there, cook the bacon till it's crispy, and take the bacon out and save it for later. I did that earlier, so I'm going to take a little bit of bacon fat, put it in there. I'm going to throw a little bit of onion. As that gets hot, I'm going to cut this onion. And cut it down that way, just into some chunks. And in goes that. It should start sizzling as soon as I put it in there. Yeah, nice sizzle to it. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. Let that roll around. While that's getting hot, I'm going to throw some potatoes. Now, I cook these potatoes. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can cook them in the oven, rub them down with a little bit of olive oil, put them in a 400-degree oven until they're brown and crispy and nice and soft. Crispy on the outside, nice and soft on the inside. Or you can boil them until they're done. I boil them because we're here in a greenhouse, and most of those greenhouses don't come equipped with ovens. So I boil them on the top of the stove. And it's going to turn out to be a really wonderful dish. All right. So these are already cooked. All I really need to do is get hot. Right. I'm going to stir that around. And while those are getting hot, I'm going to throw the apples in. Now we got apples and potatoes and bacon fat in there. We're going to add the bacon a little bit later and let that get in there. But a lot of sweet. Carbohydrates go to glucose in your mouth and in your system. The apples have got a lot of sugar in them. So we're going to add a little bit of vinegar, some cider vinegar, right, to give it a little sharpness. Let that cook around some. Ah, I love the smell of bacon and vinegar. It's just wonderful. You can't beat it. And I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. And the potatoes take a lot of salt. Don't be surprised to see a lot of salt being required by potatoes. Okay, here we go with that. All right. Now I'm going to take some rosemary. Pull these off. Now, I recommend you not use dried rosemary. Use fresh rosemary, because when you dry rosemary, it turns into these little needles that never soften up in your stew. So you got these sharp stickers all the time. So fresh works nice. It's almost always available now, especially from greenhouses. There's a place in the western part of the state, Shenandoah Farms, that just masters at these kinds of things. In that goes. I'm going to stir this around. The good thing about this dish is you can get interrupted. You know, your kids can come in, the phone can ring, and something good on TV, and you can go watch it for a few minutes and come back, and it's not going to hurt anything. Because the more those apples cook, the more caramelized they're going to get, and the sweeter they're going to add to the dish. Right? So we're just about ready. We're going to let this cook for a couple of more minutes, and then we're going to pull it out of the pan and put it on a plate and enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. So we'll be back in just a moment. All right, we've let this cook for a couple of minutes. Now the apples are nice and soft, the potatoes are hot all the way through, the onions are caramelizing nice. I'm going to cut this bacon up. All right. And I'm going to throw that in there. All right, and stir this around. Can you think of a better combination? Apples and potatoes and rosemary and apples. Ah, I said apples twice, didn't I? All right, but that's because they're doubly good. Rosemary pairs really, really nice with apples. Think about an apple pie and think about what it would taste like with a little bit of rosemary in it. It just really kicks it into a whole new dimension. Very, very good. It's good for desserts. Just like basil goes so nicely with strawberries. All right. Nice looking plate. You can see that these potatoes have started to get a little bit of color. Now you can cook them as long as you want and get as much color onto them as you want. Get a little bit of this good stuff down here. All right, turn off the plate. I'm going to get a little bit of rosemary to decorate with. And we're just about there. Now we're going to have to turn the camera off because everybody in the room is drooling now, and it doesn't look good on camera. So, there we go. Now, I'm not like a lot of chefs that this sail coming up out of it. I like to have everything down in the food. So here we go. We've got potato, apple, rosemary, onions in a warm potato salad. I can draw a little bit of this juice. This is big and I'm not going to do it now, but I could pour this juice over there and it would be really, really nice. Remember, here at Chef Maxwell's, we always play with our food, but it's better if the food is safe, fresh, and locally grown. For more delicious recipes using Virginia-grown fruits and vegetables, contact Lisa Lloyd at the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services at 102 Governor Street, Richmond, Virginia, 23219.
Chef Maxwell's recipes are listed on the Save Our Food website at saveourfood.org.
There are quite a few varieties of hydrangeas we can grow in a garden, and to simplify it, there are spring blooming hydrangeas, which include mop heads and lace caps. They sort of have, just giant leaves. They're called big leaf hydrangeas. And then there's also summer blooming hydrangeas, and they sort of fall into the category almost as your tree hydrangeas. Now this here is one of the big leaf hydrangeas that we're looking at, and it comes into bloom in the spring. Now, just to complicate things a little bit more, most of these would only bloom in the spring, but now they've created a whole new group of hydrangeas that bloom in the spring and then bloom again in the summer. So you might want to look for those reblooming hydrangeas, especially if you live in those areas where it gets a little cold or too cold in the winter and it freezes some of the buds. As you look at these spring blooming hydrangeas, all the flowers are at the edge of the plant. And what happens is later in the season, August, September, the flower buds are produced at the tips of all the stems. And then they bloom in the spring. And this is if you have a real cold winter, sometimes they freeze back. The ideal way to prune this type of hydrangea is what we call a thinning process. That's where you come in and remove about 20% of all the stems completely to the ground. So if you had 100 stems, you'd remove 20. If you had 10 stems, you would remove 2. And by pruning it this way, you're always producing nice new long stems that have the ability to flower, as you see here. Here's a great example of a lace cap hydrangea. The flower's a little flatter and then it sort of has this look to it. And they also bloom a long time, and some actually bloom again and again for you in your gardens. I find that a lot of these hydrangeas in really colder climates do well underneath some sort of tree protection or evergreen protection, and they really help brighten up those shady gardens. And as you see here, they do get pretty big. See, some of these hydrangeas will get 4 or 5 feet in diameter, so definitely don't plant them too close together in your garden. One of my favorite hydrangeas is known as the tree hydrangea. This hydrangea begins blooming in early summer and it blooms all the way throughout the summer. And this hydrangea can be pruned to any height you'd like. You can keep it shorter, or as you see here, you can let it grow into a 20-foot tree. Pruning on this takes place early in the season, probably early spring, because it blooms on new wood. And one of the varieties that I really like is known as Hydrangea tardiva. Easy to grow, anyone can grow it. The hotter it is, the better this plant grows. There's such a wide variety of hydrangeas. You can get colors that you see here. Now this one's called Glowing Embers, but it is a really, as you see here, bright pink that really brightens up that part of the garden. Now remember, some grow in full sun, or they love environments like you see here, which is considered bright shade. I'm standing next to my favorite hydrangea that you can grow in the garden. It's one of my top 5 favorite plants, and it's Hydrangea Annabelle. Any of us can grow it. And this plant really does well exceptionally in the full sun. So if you have that area in a garden, full sun, this is a plant that will just grow beyond your expectations. This plant blooms on new wood, so you cut it down to the ground every spring to 2 to 3 inches, and you'll see these white flowers turning this olive color. You can then cut these, strip the leaves off of these, and hang them upside down. They'll dry perfectly, so you can use them for your fall and your winter decorations. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
The folks at the Salem Farmers Market have been enjoying some tasty food the past 2 summers, courtesy of a portable kitchen. Stay with us. Farmers market vendors often offer food samples as a way to boost business. But the Salem Chef Circle takes that concept to a whole new level.
Back in 2009, the city of Salem, Virginia wanted to jazz up its farmers market, but money was short and the market site lacked the space for a permanent building. So city maintenance crews salvaged a kitchen from a local home slated for demolition, rebuilt it for use on a trailer, and now use it to host weekly cooking demonstrations at the downtown market site. The whole idea has just taken off thanks to the ever-growing demand for fresh and local foods.
You know, I want people in the city of Salem and outside of Salem to taste the difference in local grown, and you know, some of them just aren't aware of how wonderful locally grown fruits and vegetables can taste.
Each weekend, the guest chef at the Chef Circle shops for fresh vegetables, fruits, breads, and cheeses and creates a recipe on the spot. And while the demonstrations are popular, the samples are the big hit.
We like to do things that are simple, but just a little bit outside the box and a little bit different, because that's kind of what piques people's interest. And it's not like they're that out of the box, they're here at the market. It's just in the manner that you kind of combine them.
It may seem like a lot of work to have a portable kitchen, but the customers and the market vendors love it. And it highlights the growing importance of farmers markets and local foods with consumers.
It's not just a win for a chef, and it's not just a win for a farmer. It's a win for, you know, it's going to enhance the downtown on Saturday mornings.
The Salem Chef Circle begins its 3rd season from June to August at the Farmers Market at 9:30 a.m. each Saturday. For more information on the kitchen or the program, go to www.thechefcircle.com.
Norm, I love that story, and it's so much fun to go to that market. I've been there on the weekends, and you've got to give it up to those chefs for cooking like that on the fly.
It looks delicious, and now that farmers market season is in full swing, I'm sure there'll be lots more safe, fresh, locally grown food at farmers markets all across the state, and some more cooking demonstrations as well. And that's going to do it for this month on Down Home Virginia. Coming up next month, we'll show you how growers are using hoop houses to extend their season far beyond the summer.
And of course, Mark Viette's going to have some great suggestions on how you can grow shade plants both for your garden and landscape. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good month.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, and Atlantic Appalachia. Home in my heart always. You know I'll make my home in Virginia.
I grew this apple on my family farm.
I harvested this apple with my own 2 hands. I transported this apple to market.
I purchased this apple for my store.
I bought this apple for my family. And I protected this apple, the farm it grew on, and everyone who touched it by joining Save Our Food.
Help Virginia Farm Bureau protect farms and families by joining Save Our Food. Sign up today at saveourfood.org.
I love this apple.